This episode of Two Beers Till Takeoff is sponsored by No Days Wasted, a leader in the hangover supplement industry. Listeners can now get 15% off their next purchase by using promo code 2beers. That's 2beers, beers in capital at checkout. Live life or your next trip to the maximum with No Days Wasted.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff, the podcast inspired by conversations overheard at the airport bar. Join Phil as he grabs a couple of beers and chats with interesting people from around the world, sharing expert knowledge and hilarious stories that you won't find in your guidebook. So pull up a stool and get ready for an adventure as we explore worlds of travel and beyond with Two Beers Till Takeoff.
4 hours in a Taliban headquarters.
I had dog meat in Laos.
Was it Golden Retriever?
Smack a dirty old smooch on our beautiful fish right here.
He didn't die, but he fell down the side of the mountain.
Hello and welcome to Two Beers Till Takeoff's Season 2 finale. In this episode, you'll be hearing the best and most listened to stories from this past season. Listening back to these stories, I realized how amazing these stories truly are. There were some absolute wild ones in this series. It was crazy. Before we get to the stories, I want to thank everyone who's listened, taken the time to leave a review, and shared this podcast with friends. You, the listeners, have helped tremendously into building this podcast to what it is today. So thank you. Now, let's get to the stories. First up was the most listened to episode of this season. This guy was so good that in the episode, he had me forgetting that I was actually interviewing him. I was like, oh shit, I'm interviewing this guy. I was just so sucked into his stories. This guy just had amazing stories back to back to back. This man was recently Emmy nominated for Best Program Host for his TV show Uncharted Adventures. Others nominated for Best Program Host, Martha Stewart and Zac Efron. Is that good? This guy was dropping stories left and right in the episode, spanning from living with the Hadza tribe to ayahuasca experiences to so much more. Go listen to this full episode if you haven't already. Ladies and gentlemen, the great and inspiring Mike Corey, aka Fearless and Far.
This story just happened about a year and a half ago. So I have the YouTube channel, we spoke about it. I like to find unique adventures that generally haven't been done before. I grew up as a Boy Scout in Canada, love being outdoors, very comfortable camping, making campfires, setting up tents, all that kind of stuff. And so I found this interesting niche of camping in crazy places. And I had done a few of these episodes already where I'd get dropped off in a remote part of a certain country, like Romania. I found this really interesting castle, old ruins, went up there, camped all by myself, heard these ghost stories of the old maiden who guarded it. And it's interesting, right? It's beautiful. And as a Canadian, we don't see castles, right? There's like Chateau Frontenac. And I can't even think of anything else. So these old ancient, these old ancient castles just fascinate me. And I was traveling in Turkey, looking for another spot to do one of these, solo camping in an abandoned castle videos. And over there's castles everywhere. Like if there was a castle, well, there is one in Canada, but again, it becomes a national landmark. But over there's just so many, you can't possibly preserve them all. And I found this place in the remote northeastern part of Turkey called Satan's Castle. Ominous name. Right up my alley. Great YouTube title name.
Hell yeah.
So it's called Satan's Castle. And you had to take 2 hours from the nearest big town of maybe like 100,000 people. You drive up in the mountains. There's a couple little shanty towns. You go past all of them. And then the road ends and you have to hike probably about 25 minutes along a ridge. You dip down and you find this rock monolith, this tower that kind of juts out of the gorge. And on top of that, you have Satan's Castle. A bit like what was the castle in Lord of the Rings 3, Return of the King? Anyway, this castle perched on top of this rock tower. The perfect defense, right? Natural fortifications. Only one way in, one way out. And so I rented a car, I drove the 2 hours, drove by these little shanty towns, parked it, and took my backpack with like my drone and my firewood and all that stuff, and I was walking along the path to go find this castle. I saw it, it was perfect. It's exactly what you'd picture it would be. It's right out of the medieval times. And it's about midday. The sun was going to be behind the mountains in about 3 or 4 hours, around 4 p.m., because we were so high. And so I go and I explore and I make my little YouTube video and having a good time. And then the sun starts to hit the crest of the mountain. So I make my little campfire and having a great, like, just explore, like living like a medieval king. You know, there's the murder holes where they would drop down the hot oil. Like, it has everything. A big tower in the middle, still intact. An old chapel on the side that was like destroyed, but still had like church artifacts. It was fantastic. And so I'm there. The lights are going down. One thing that was a bit peculiar, though, is that there was like floodlights that were positioned around like the outside of it, but all the wires were cut and the lights were smashed. So at some point, someone had decided to light it up, I guess. But again, we were so far from anybody. No one would ever be able to see it lit up. But all the wires were cut. Anyway, I was kind of pumped because I didn't want a bunch of floodlights in my face as I was camping at night. So fine, whatever. That detail is going to be very important later, by the way. So I realized that as I was filming, I must have dropped my head torch, my headlamp, back in the beginning of the castle. So again, lights coming down, the sun's coming down over the horizon. I had my campfire, had some food. I'm like, all right, well, one thing I like to do just for the cinematics of it all is make an old school hand torch with fire. So I usually bring in the ingredients for that. Just like a stick and some wire and a cloth and some kerosene. So I'm like, it'd be cool to go walk around and get some shots with this torch and also be able to find my actual head torch because, you know, a fire torch isn't that efficient if anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I make my fire torch and I set up my tripod and my camera and I'm getting these really cool exploring shots. I'm going to put voiceover on it later. I'm just living the fantasy, right? Like old school. Like, what's the last time someone would have walked with a torch there? Thousands of years ago or something. And I'm going. And then I look at the path that I walked on the other side of the ridge. So there's like the rock tower, right, that I'm on top of. There's a gorge that cuts across. And on the other side, there's the trail that kind of snakes along the other side of the gorge. And I look, and there's a couple like little floodlights that were put on the path. And again, it's kind of weird, but all right, that's fine. But I look, and there's a group of 3 guys, I think, standing maybe about a half kilometer or full kilometer on the other side of the gorge, looking over where I am. And it's getting a little bit late. It's like 10 p.m. And again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, that's kind of weird, but it's fine. And then I can tell they see me, and they begin to scream bloody murder like I just had sex with their mother. Like they are screaming like no one's ever screamed like that at me before. And so I'm like, oh shit. So I put up my little torch and I'm like, idiot. And I'm just kind of like poked behind a rock. I'm like, what are these guys? What are they doing? And then gunshot zips over my head. And I immediately fell into a state of confusion. Who are these guys? I'm in the middle of nowhere, right? Why do they have guns? And was that shot at me? And so I'm tucked behind this rock, and they still scream. And then another gunshot, again, in my direction, definitely was at me or around me, right? And so very interesting thoughts start to come in my head. What do I do now? There's only one way on, one way off this rock castle, right? This natural land bridge that connects to the path that they're on. My car that I parked is at the base of the path that they're on. I don't have my stuff with me. I'm away from my campsite. So like my passport, my everything's over in the tent. I have like my camera and some bits and pieces of my phone, but nothing to stay, to defend myself or like, should I defend myself? Like what do they want? Are they maybe they're hunters trying to catch, but those shots were directed in my direction. So in that moment, I was like, well, what you have to do is you have to get to the car, but I couldn't go back and get my keys. So luckily I had my backpack with a few basic essentials in there, but just like my phone and again, camera pieces, just luckily I have my phone in my backpack. And so I take my phone, I didn't have a flashlight, so I just pressed record on my phone only because I didn't want to use the flashlight. And I knew if I pressed record, I could use the dim light of the screen to see where my feet were. Yeah. And at this point, I was trying to hustle back to the tent, but they started sprinting towards where I was. So the 3 guys start running towards, again, the one-way entrance exit to this castle. And so I see that and I'm like, I can't stay here. Like they're obviously here to get me. This isn't a misunderstanding. Like
There's a bounty on me or something.
They are looking for me. And I figured if I said screw it to everything in my tent and I ran out the path, I was closer to the exit entrance than they were, so I could probably get out and start to scale the mountain and like hide myself on the bush. But the problem is that it's like a 70-degree angle and there was like some rocks and things there, but I don't know what I like, but that was the only option. I don't know if I could actually make it to the top, but at least I could hide there and they would think I got away or something. So I sprint again. I'm just trying to find where my feet are, not trying to put so much light. I get out the front exit. I start crawling up the side of this cliff and I hide behind a bush. And these guys come streaming past me and they're screaming, and they stop, right? And they have a flashlight and they're scanning the flashlight and it goes right by the bush I'm in. And I'm just like trying to be as small as possible and I try not to make any noise. And then they keep walking. And so I try to climb up. A rock slips again. I'm terrified. They didn't quite notice, but I was scared to move. So they go inside. They go to where my campsite was, and then I can hear them like messing with my stuff and everything. And I'm like, well, like I've got my passport there. I've got all this stuff. And at that point, I have my phone, right? And I call my friend, a local Turkish guy who was 3-4 hours away. Normally, I would get someone to help drop me off, and then they would leave me there, and I would camp, and there would be somebody around, like not like they're there, but within half an hour in case something happened. But he was hours away. We couldn't make it work. I was trying to do this on the way to something else. So I messaged my friend Suat, and I'm like, bro, there's people here, and they're trying to get me. And he goes, they're terrorists, man. If they don't let them find you, and if they find your things, they're going to steal your things. So just try to hide. I'll call the police. So
Holy shit.
Shit. And it was really cold. It's November in Turkey. It's very cold there. So all I had was like, my pants and t-shirt, but it was like getting down close to freezing. And so I wait for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and these guys are still shooting guns in the air. Bam, bam, 6 shots, 7 shots, 8 shots.
Does it
still
sound
yelling.
Like a handgun or is it like a rifle?
Yeah, they had a pistol and they had a rifle.
Jesus Christ.
And still shooting, still yelling, still looking for me. They're not leaving. And then I'm like, well, maybe I can try to make it up the cliff, but again, I don't have the keys are back. The keys to the car are back in my tent. What am I can't spend the night out here, man. Like I'm going to die of hypothermia, And how do I get back without them seeing us? So I'm trying to figure out everything. And hopefully the police will come and they'll figure it out. So I get a call back like about an hour and a half later. And or a message back from Suat, and he goes, "Okay, great. The police are there. They got there like 45 minutes ago." And I'm like, "Okay, well, are you sure? Because there's only one path. Like I haven't seen them come." He goes, "No, they were there. They were. Someone actually called them before I even called them because they were looking for a terrorist and a treasure hunter." And I was like, "Oh shit! Like, well, I would have seen them." And then I realized something. Like no one had been there but me, and so these guys were the police. They were the military police. And that the locals had saw some dude with a bunch of weird tripods and shit and thought I was a treasure hunter because I didn't know at the time, but there's a very famous treasure, some princess's treasure buried in that castle that no one's ever found. And that's why those lights were there. And also the reason why the lights were cut is because a treasure hunter had come sometime in the past, a year ago, whatever, cut all the lights. And at the very entrance, there was a circuit board that controlled the lights. Someone had smashed that as well. So the military police had come, saw that someone had smashed the control panel for the lights, got there, saw that someone cut the lights, and saw some random dude with a wooden torch, fire torch, walking around, and assumed I was a treasure hunter. And so they stormed the castle, man, trying to catch me.
Holy shit.
And so
decided to shoot at you?
Exactly. And so I'm back on, like, that's when I call Suat, and I'm like, listen, are you sure this is true? Because if it's not, these guys, like, I'm pretty sure they want to kill me. And he goes, no, they're there. They're by your tent. They're in your study. Go back. They're waiting for you. I'm like, oh my God. So I do the walk of shame back to the tent. And these guys are there, and they're like, Mike, and I'm like, hey boys, and it's like, they're like, why are you here? I'm like, I'm making a YouTube video of camping. And they're like, oh, we subscribe. What is your channel? And I'm like, and so I give them my YouTube channel, and they're like, and he's like, oh, you run very far. And I was like, yeah, because you were shooting at me. How many times do you shoot? He goes, 8 times. Here, and he hands me the pistol for me to hold the pistol. And then, so then I was able to get a lot of this interaction on camera. It was kind of like sweet serendipity that the best way for me to have light and not show them where I was pressing record on my phone. So I do have some bits and pieces there. And when I came back up, they wouldn't let me film, but I just did an audio recording. So we have a lot of this conversation on either audio or on video. And they wouldn't let me stay because they had, I didn't get this part specifically, but they said there's too many wolves and bears there and that it was a problem. And so what they did is they drove me back to a boutique hotel, like an hour and a half, and they paid for it. And then we all drank like raki, like moonshine, and smoked cigarettes until like 3 a.m. together. And it was no hard feelings, even though these boys shot 8 times.
Fun fact, Mike is about an hour away from where I live. I remember reading about him in the paper like 10 years ago, and I've been following him since. It was so cool to have connected with him. You know, hopefully one day we can do an in-person episode and have a couple beers. I think he'd be a great guy to meet up with. The full episode is number 48. Mike Corey talks hunting with the Hadza tribe in Tanzania, a heroic dose of ayahuasca, and near-death experiences in Turkey. Such a great one. Like I said, the most listened to episode this season. Mike was a absolute rock star in this one. Go check it out. Next up, we have to go to another super popular episode. Interviewing this man was a bucket list item for me. He is widely known as one of the most accomplished hunters in the world. You may have seen him on his many TV shows throughout the years, the Joe Rogan Experience, or now on the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Here is Jim Shockey.
Tourism isn't viable. It's not a factor. No tourists are going to go to that part of Mozambique where the crocodiles are, 200 people in that region were killed by crocodiles that year. We just can't fathom that. We just can't fathom that. We can't think if we went to the tap, every time we went to the tap to get a drink of water or to fill up our coffee pot, we could be eaten. We could be killed. I mean, and in about as horrible a way as you can imagine, caught by the arm, caught by the leg, pulled underwater, and then basically, the croc will twist until something comes off. And then they swallow it, and then they come after the rest of you. Meanwhile, there's 10 other crocs doing the same thing on you. You can't imagine that. While we were there, we were asked by the villagers, a croc had taken a young lady just a mile down the river while we were there. And we did our best to try and get that croc, although, they're such a primitive animal that I don't know that it matters, because every single croc is a potential man-eater at that point, or human eater, or whatever is politically correct to call it nowadays. And the day we left, the next day, a croc took the wife of the groundskeeper where we were staying, and his daughter.
So you said his wife and his daughter?
Both of them, yeah, the next day.
So God.
We just can't think about that. You want to wash your clothes. Every time you put something in the washing machine, imagine that you're taking a chance of getting dragged underwater and killed horribly.
So Jim, he was such a humble guy. He was a great chat. And I left that interview being like, that guy's a badass, but also this guy just loves nature so much. And he does more towards conservation than people think. Hunting is not just killing animals. He goes into it, and we go into it in the episode, but the guy was just an absolute beauty. If you want to go check out that full episode, Jim's episode is number 50. Easy enough, Jim Shockey. Next up is one of my favorite YouTubers. In this interview, he's in Ukraine during the war. So recently he was in Ukraine, and he left us with an awesome story. Here is Connor McBee, also known as Small Brained American on YouTube.
My story is it's from Colombia, right? I was in Cartagena, and now that we're mentioning it, all the crime and shit. I was in the touristy area. It's like, have you been there?
Yeah, I was there last
I was in
June.
Okay. So I was in the touristy area. There's this big, sorry, it's loud. There's like a big castle, you know, it's like kind of colonial era, big castle. All the tourists love to go there. And I was on my way to go there. So I'm walking there. And if you've ever been to Latin America or any kind of third world country, you'll know like the buses, like huge crowds, like lots of chaos to get on these buses, and just like, it's just classic Latin America chaos at this, it was kind of like a corner intersection. So I'm trying to like take a shortcut to get to the castle. And if anyone listening has been to this area of the world, they know the salesmen there are very pushy. So they'll kind of touch you. They'll like grab you to get on the bus. They'll like, you know, entice you like, amigo, you know, whatever, come here, get on the bus. I'll give you a good price, whatever the fuck, you know, they're really pushy. So this guy is kind of like nipping at me, I guess is the best way to put it. He's kind of like touching me like, hey man, get on the bus. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good. I'm going to the castle. And he continues to follow me. And he's like very close. Yeah. So he's like, whatever. I just thought it was like normal salesman shit. Like it's annoying. It's really annoying, but what are you going to do? Like, you know, you're in Colombia. It's fine. So whatever. I just ignore him. I keep walking. And this is where my tip comes in. My number 2 tip. Hide your goddamn valuables. I had my phone in my waistband. Right. I'm wearing like basketball shorts and the phone's like popping out. And as he's kind of, you know, enticing me or nipping at me to get on the bus, he starts snatching from my phone, dude.
In the middle of the day?
He like, middle of the day, dude. So he starts grabbing for it. He tries 2 or 3 times. I like push his hand away. And like, this is all kind of like primal instinct. Like I didn't even, what's it called? Consciously like know what was happening. I was just kind of like batting away, like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why is he touching me? Blah, blah, blah. And he gets the phone, right? And then he pulls out a fucking knife, dude. He has a knife.
Connor, hold on a sec. So I've been to this castle. Is that the one by the water? The Castel?
Yeah.
So you're just in the front there, like where all the tourist buses.
No. So I hadn't gotten there yet. I was like, I was on the way, and I was trying to like take a little detour around these buses to get there sooner. If that makes sense.
There's like going from, I guess, the old town to that castle. Like my girlfriend and I, we went to like, I wanted to get it like a Columbia jersey. We've actually walked that, and it's actually fucking sketchy. My girlfriend was like, let's turn around. Like this is like
And that's the thing is, I feel like people, when they travel, they want to go to these touristy places, but like in reality, they're actually more dangerous than like hanging with the locals. And that's not, you know, I'm not trying to make a blanket statement for the entire world, but like in this situation, they know you have money. They know you're a Westerner. They know you don't speak the language as well as they do. They can call their friends over. Like they have the power in that situation. You know what I mean? So this guy's like snatching for the phone. I'm like batting his hand away. He pulls a knife and I'm like, take the phone, dude. Take the fucking phone. Okay, we're done.
Clear my browser history, please.
Snatches the phone. Right. And by the way, this was at the end of my 4-month Colombia trip. So I thought all my photos were gone. I hadn't backed any of it up. It's like thousands of pictures, vlogs, you know, bank statements, all that shit. It's all just out there at this point. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, this guy has my phone. I'm fucked. And then all these locals are like, corte, like, run. Take your phone back. And I'm wearing Chacos and like fucking Adidas shorts. And I just start running, dude, without even thinking about it. I start chasing this dude down in fucking Chacos. So I start chasing this motherfucker down. In my Chacos. Totally ill prepared to do like a Jason Bourne style chase scene, right? And by the way, as I'm running, I don't even know what's happening. Like I'm just obeying the orders of these people yelling at me to run. I'm like, fuck it, I guess I'm getting my phone back. So this guy disappears into the big crowd of these buses, like 4 or 5 buses. People are yelling, shouting, honking horns. You know how it is.
Yep.
He's just gone. And I'm like, well, that's it. There's 4 months of photos. There's all my memories. There's everything. It's just gone. Also, like $1,000 phone. It's just gone. And I'm sitting there. My heart's racing. I'm like, damn. Like, What am I going to do? How am I going to recover? Like, what just happened?
How am I gonna call my mom?
And then, yeah. But then, miraculously, this different guy emerges off of a different bus, right? So I'm sitting there losing my shit. This new character emerges off of a bus. He has a gun. Okay. He has a gun.
What?
And everybody in the crowd is pointing at me and shouting. They look to the guy with the gun. They say, "There's the white guy." They point at me. And I'm like, I'm going to get robbed twice. That's what's happening. The double down. The good old Colombian double down. Right? So first a knife, then a gun. I'm like, damn, this is an arms race to take everything that I have. Right? And the guy walks up to me. I'm like, listen, sir, like, take whatever you want. You have a firearm. The dude hands me my phone. Yeah.
Why did he have his gun out?
My theory is he saw the guy with the knife. The good old Colombian locals snitched on him and said, he stole that phone. Homeboy pulls the gun, says, give me the goddamn phone. Takes the phone, gives it back to me. That's my theory.
Holy fuck.
Isn't that crazy?
So what was crazy for me was that his story in Colombia was he actually went to a place where I went. So I knew exactly where he was talking about, like I was mentioning in the story. So like I can still remember Jacqueline, my fiance, being like, hey, this is a sketchy area. Like we need to get out of here. So I thought it was just such a cool episode that his story happened to somewhere I'd already been. This was Connor's first time on the podcast. And right from the start, I mean, I could tell that we had a connection. He's another guy that I'd love to have a beer with in person. Since this episode, he's been on another 2 episodes and he's always been a great guy to have a chat with. The full episode is number 22, Slava Ukraine, plus a journey from Ireland to Japan. He's also been on episode number 35, Happy Hour number 12, the 12 Beers of Christmas, and one with a fellow buddy, Nolan, number 38, Seal on Tour gets canceled in Iraq. Connor is, like I guess in the title, is his journey. He came on to talk about his journey from Ireland to Japan, and I'm looking to have him on next season because I think he's just about to finish his journey. So I can't wait to talk to him. I've been following along his YouTube videos, and they're absolutely wild. Next up is a guest that had one of the craziest stories I'd ever heard. This guy's a British sailor and a man who likes to push the limit on life. Can I cross the Atlantic Ocean by myself at 21? Yeah, why not? Such a wild story and a great example of persevering through life's challenges, no matter what they may be. Here is Max Campbell, aka Un.Tide.
Carrying on a bit from my story earlier, when I was 20, I left the UK on Flying Cloud, this little wooden boat that I bought for £500, and made it all the way down to the Cape Verde Islands in Africa. I was by myself at that point. And then left to sail across the Atlantic by myself, which was, it's quite a big deal because I was young and like kind of naive. But
there's a lot worse things you could be doing at 21.
Yeah. I just felt like I could do it, and I really wanted to do it. So I left. I spent pretty much all of my money on 3 weeks worth of food, and then left on the crossing. And it was amazing. I spent all this time by myself, and I really enjoyed the solitude. I really enjoyed just the simplicity of spending weeks and weeks sailing, and I was reading loads of books and catching fish, and yeah, I was loving it. But 2 days before I reached the Caribbean, I had accident with my paraffin stove. So I cooked on paraffin, which is this ancient, archaic way of cooking. Basically, it's this metal stove, and it's got these brass tanks full of paraffin, and then a little cup that you fill full of alcohol, and you burn the alcohol off, and it heats up the hob, and then you pump in the paraffin, and it atomizes and it burns in this really hot jet. So that was how I was cooking at the time. And the stove wasn't gimbaled, which means it didn't rock as the boat rocked. So as flying cloud was moving, the stove was moving as well. And
oh shit.
Yeah, the boat was rocking so much that I had to pour in a little bit of the alcohol, light it, burn it off, and pour in a little bit more. And basically it ended up with about half a litre of this methylated spirit alcohol exploding in my hand. I was half naked. The whole inside of the boat just is on fire. It was really painful. It was like just straight away this really excruciating pain. And yeah, I went into this adrenaline sort of state. I didn't really think, but I ran outside and jumped into the sea, which is like a great idea but also a terrible idea at the same time because it put the fire out. But if I let go, then the boat would have just sailed away and I would have been floating.
So you were engulfed in flames when you jumped off your boat. Like what parts of you were on fire?
Well, I was wearing trackies, right? So I was like, my top half was naked.
Yeah.
So I was just all on flames, like the whole top bit of me.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, but I held on with one hand, luckily, because if I didn't, then I would have just been left there swimming around in the middle of the ocean. There's no way you could survive that. And then I climbed back on the boat. Everything's blistering up already. Like I have these big blisters forming all over my shoulders, on my chest. Like a lot of skin showing, like it's all being burnt off. My face is all fucked up as well.
Holy shit.
And
at this point, where are you at on your journey? Like, are you almost there or are you halfway?
I was very nearly there. I was still 2 days away, but like...
Holy man.
Yeah, and the inside of the boat was on fire, so I threw a bucket of seawater inside the boat to put the fire out, and then I... just like treated my burns because I know about first aid, so I know how to deal with the situation, and then sailed for like 2 days pretty much to get
were your hands also burned?
A little bit, like on the tops of my hands, yeah, but I could still use them.
Okay,
and,
good, yeah.
Yeah, and my body was like in shock. I was hallucinating, getting really, really cold.
Holy shit.
And yeah, it was crazy. But
like, what do you mean you were hallucinating? Like, what were you seeing? Like,
I wasn't like having, I wasn't like tripping. I was just, didn't really have much of a grasp of reality at times.
Wow.
And all of my senses were just all over the place. Yeah, it was just a fucking nightmare basically. It was close. It was like I was really on the edge, but I always knew that I would make it. And then when I did arrive after 2 days, I pumped up my dinghy and then went to hospital for a week and spent most of the time on a drip. Everything was like bandaged up. It was really bad.
Holy man, that's insane.
Yeah. And then, I had second degree burns over like 10 to 12% of my body. So if you imagine like 1% of your body is your hand, right? I had 10 to 12 hands where my skin had been burnt off completely. And to like recover from that, you can't be out in the sun, like you can't be in the sunshine. So I was like, right, I'm gonna have to spend a year without being in the sun, which obviously means I can't go sailing.
Yeah.
So I left Flying Cloud in the Caribbean and went back to the UK for a whole year. And it was like a whole year of recovery because there was the physical side of thing, like healing the burns, but there was also like the mental side of things. And first of all, I was trying to deal with this intense physical trauma. And then I was also trying to deal with the fact that everyone was talking about it. Like it was in newspapers and I couldn't speak to anyone that, like if there was someone that I hadn't seen for a bit, I couldn't talk to them without them saying something like commenting on the incident.
Bringing it back.
And yeah, if you're trying to deal with trauma, the worst thing, I felt like the worst thing that people can do is use that trauma to identify you. So yeah. And that was essentially what was happening. All of these people sometimes people even make jokes about it. They'd be like, oh yeah, make sure you get a better cooker next time, and like and I was trying to process everything that happened. I felt like I'd failed because obviously the trip had taken this crazy turn.
Yeah.
And then there were people like commenting on it all the time, joking about it. Like I knew everyone was talking about it, and it's like I was still trying to process this. I still couldn't even understand how I wasn't dead. And the last thing I wanted was everyone like talking about it, bringing it up all the time. So overcoming that was a big part of it. But I did, it took me about 8 months, and there were times when it was like really, really dark. Like I like genuinely struggled with like crippling anxiety and depression for a long period of time. But I came out of the other side, and I learned so much from that whole experience. I learned it taught me a lot about not letting other people's opinions or affect my ego, or just not letting other people's comments get to you, because I had to find out a way to deal with it in order to get over the situation. And thankfully, like I have like some scars on my body, but nothing really that bad. And yeah, it was all good in the end. And I went back out to the Caribbean. I'd like rescued Flying Cloud, and then sailed back to the UK. And it was if that trip didn't have the those highs and lows, then, or like the adversity that I had to overcome, then I feel there's no way that I would have emerged like as strong and resilient as I feel like I am now, because it was such a big hurdle to overcome, and that's the same with any adversity that anyone has when they're traveling, I think.
Yeah, man. Listen, that's crazy. Like I feel like I felt a bit of what you went through, you explaining that. Like that was, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like,
yeah, it is a crazy story.
So this episode is the only one I've ever felt emotional. Max, the way he was just telling the story, you could just feel the pain that he just felt. Like it was just so crazy. Max was so open about the challenges he experienced, and I feel honored that he came on to tell his story on here. Max is now sailing across the Pacific. I mean, keep going, dude. You're a true inspiration. The full episode is number 27, Fire on Board. I know what you must be thinking right now. Where are the Sid stories? The goat of storytelling, truly one of the wildest dudes I know with a heart of gold. This guy nearly got stabbed in Brazil trying to protect me and my McDonald's one night. So, brother from another mother, here is Sid.
Story time today. I'm probably going to have to explain a few characters before we get into it, because if not, it doesn't really make that much sense. I'm going to have to explain one side note as well, but I'll start with the people. So, we were 4 at the time. It was me, Ricky, who I'd explained about earlier, and who's been mentioned many times actually when I've been on the show. Good travel buddy of mine. We had with us a guy called Dimitri, who was actually from Washington, D.C. Actually, there's nothing else to say about him. He was just there. And there was a guy with us called Arj. Arjun Bugal, I think was his full name. I think he was the youngest or the fastest man to walk around the world. He holds some kind of record like that. The man's got some stories as well, as you can imagine, from that kind of adventure. He's an English guy.
Yeah, we've tried to get him on. Right? But he's like fucking disappeared.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe he got caught up in Uzbekistan or something like that. He's English, but he has some Indian heritage, and for this reason, he speaks a little bit of Hindi, which was relevant at one point in this story. Basically, we wanted to go out, because I know India's not got like a famous nightlife scene or anything, but what do we do when we're abroad? We always do this kind of thing. And these two guys were the same as me and Ricky. They wanted to go out. So we'd already tried, and the only bar we'd found in our area in New Delhi was this same rooftop bar we'd kept going to. And we were ready to try something new, and we'd spoken around and asked a bunch of people and couldn't find anything. One guy told us about this place called Mia Bella's. Okay, I actually looked it up earlier. It's no longer a bar, unfortunately, which is devastating. It's now like some kind of classy couples restaurant, the kind of place you take your Doris on Valentine's Day. But Yeah, at the time it was a bar, and the guy had said good things about it. Arj had done the communication, which is why we managed to actually get a bit of information out of somebody, because if not, it was impossible. Not because they don't speak English, it's just hard to get information out of these people for some reason. I guess because Delhi's such a big city. You know, people don't know the other neighborhoods. Anyway, so we crammed 4 of us in this tuk-tuk, and we went up to this area, and we get out, and suddenly it's like a different world. Yeah. Gone is the people sleeping on the motorway, and dirt, and tuk-tuks, and falling over rickshaws, and cows on the road, and people spitting on the floor. Suddenly you've got like people in suits, strobe lights, and there's not even the air was nicer. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So we walk up to this bar that's at the end of this street. Mia Bella's, there it is. Go upstairs. Okay. I'm sorry, the side note I was supposed to cover on this. A couple of weeks before we went to Delhi, okay, 2 Danish girls, I believe they were. There is an article online about it. I'll see if I can find it in case you want the link. 2 Danish girls had gone on a trip there. And it is a tough part of the world to travel as a lone woman. They'd been kidnapped from Delhi, taken to a village on the outskirts of Delhi. Yeah, and they were hung.
What?
There was some kind of issue. I don't know the ins and outs of it culturally or religiously, so I'm not going to get into it and put my foot in my mouth. But there seemed to be some kind of issue between the local men and white Western woman at the time. Anyway.
Is it because she kept saying namaste?
That might have been it, just on repeat. Telling them about how she bathes in the Ganges $7 a day. Right. I don't know what it actually was that caused it, but that was the story from the news that we'd heard about. So we go into this club, and pretty quickly we split off into pairs. Yeah. And as I said to you, Ricky likes local women. He was going to do his thing. I walk into this VIP room. I've got Arj with me, which is probably how we got in, because I didn't know how to speak to the guys, but Arj just give it a little bit of the local lingo, and that was it. He could do what he wanted. So go into this.
He was like your Vaseline.
He was like the Vaseline. Just slipping straight through, no issues with Arj. Man's 100% Vaseline. So we got into this VIP room, and the first thing this guy came up to me, he's like, yeah, you're a tourist, yeah? He's like, you want some cocaine? And I was like, Jesus, we're a long way from people offering me like double egg, double mutton on the street. And I was like, well, not tonight, actually, thanks. Best not. And so we're like, right, this VIP room is completely weird. Let's get out of here. When we get out there, we can't see Jimmy and we can't see Ricky and Dimitri anymore. So me and Arj go over, to these two Western girls, because clearly their English is going to be good, and we figured that was a good group of people to speak to. Turns out they're from Germany, and we're having a nice chat, we're having a good night, and we spend quite a lot of time with them. We drink a lot of beers, pretty wasted by the end of the night, standard.
Typical stuff.
Yeah, nothing you wouldn't expect. Didn't go back into the VIP room or anything. I figured, once was enough in there. And as things start to quieten down, we see Ricky and we see Dimitri, and we've just one Indian girl, and a guy comes over, who'd been close to them, lingering around them, and says, I can take you to an after party if you want. And we all looked at each other and went, none of us have had a proper night out since we've been here. I don't know how long the German girls had been there for, but Arj had been on the road for like 3 months, just through like the stands and Bangladesh and India and stuff like that. Actually, Bangladesh after India, sorry, poor geography. But anyway, what I'm saying is he hadn't had a proper night out. Me and Ricky were obviously clucking. So we were like, absolutely, we're going to this after party. So it turns out that he is the girl's brother that Ricky and Dimitri had been speaking to. So I don't know what he'd been watching or, what he'd gathered from what the dynamics of the group were at this point. But we're 6 tourists, okay? And there's 2 of them. So we go and we walk into the car park, and we're walking quite far away from everybody else. And he's like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. I know a great after party, and we're going to go somewhere and pick up some beers, and then we'll go to the after party. And alarm bells are ringing maybe a little bit.
Sounds like a nice guy.
Well, yeah, sounds like a nice guy, but alarm bells are ringing a little bit because we've gone so far away from like the club area. But it turns out he has actually got a car, and he's got the key for it because the door's open. So everybody gets in.
Wild.
But obviously there's 8 of us, yeah, as I said. So me and the 2 German girls, we get in the boot, right? And then you've got Arj sitting
the trunk for North Americans.
Yeah, in the trunk, yeah, of this, of this big, I don't know what they call it. It's not like a sedan car. It's bigger. It's where, you actually could store some stuff in the boot if you ran a company or something, this kind of car. Like a family carrier, we'd call it in England. Anyway, you got Arj in the middle, Dimitri and Ricky on the wings, the wide receivers. Yeah, Super Bowl day. And then the girl and her brother are up front. Okay. He starts driving. Everything's fine, everybody's talking amongst themselves. I'm talking to the girls. Things are going nicely. Things are going to plan. Okay. And then I start to hear a little bit of commotion because we've been going for a little while now. And I'm starting to think like, okay, fair enough. I don't know why these guys are getting a little bit antsy in front of me. Ricky turns around, leans over into the trunk and goes, Sid, pay attention. This is not right. This guy's driving weirdly. Yeah. And I looked up, and for the first time I looked properly out the windscreen, and he was driving like a lunatic. Yeah. Guy's speeding. You could tell he was going fast, but he's swerving in and out of traffic. Yeah. He's not waiting for anything, and he's, we're the fastest guys on the motorway.
Were you with Paul Walker?
He might have been Paul Walker, yeah. I mean, he looked Indian. I don't know where Paul Walker was from originally, but...
yeah, those blue eyes. He's definitely Indian.
Right. But I was like, don't worry about it. It's cool. So I go back to, to our conversation, and the guys are getting more and more, kind of agitated in the middle row, yeah? And they're going like, this is not right, yeah? And the driver's shouting back at them. They're shouting at the driver. And I'm like, fucking hell, this is going to get into a fight in a minute. I mean, I was still very distracted. I wasn't paying so much attention. Like, that was, I wasn't...
You're just in the back with the girl, right?
That's what I mean. I wasn't letting it dominate my evening. But then, right, Ricky grabs me again and he goes, dude, we've got to do something. This is getting out of hand now because we've been going for like, I don't know, half an hour or so. Dude, that's not a pop to the corner shop or pop to the liquor store to go get a couple of bottles. I wouldn't have even expected that drive to the after party, let alone just to the, just to the store. Yeah.
Yeah. Sid, can you maybe describe the trunk? Because you say that you're talking to Ricky and you can see outside. So it's like a hatchback, kind of like the back would open up from the outside.
I don't know what a hatchback is for you, but for us, it's a small car. It was like one of those long 5-seaters. Yeah. So that in the trunk, you've got that extra bit of space. The back part would completely open up, so it would be easy to get things in and out of. That's what I meant when I said it would be good for a company car. Yeah. Okay. And then obviously there's nothing covering the trunk, so we can lean forwards and see or speak to people, or they can lean back and speak to us.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Hatchback for North Americans. We're good.
Fantastic. Right. So we're in this fucking hatchback, right? Lewis Hamilton's at the wheel, or wherever we were with this. Right. So we're now speeding along, and we're getting out of Delhi. Yeah. And you can see, because some signs there, written in English, it's like we're not, it's clear we're not going to Delhi. We're getting towards other cities, or, we're seeing signs coming out of Delhi now, and we're like, holy fuck. Yeah. We're worried about going into the villages. Okay. I say we, mostly the 3 guys in the middle, because obviously I'm only half there, or half paying attention. Ricky grabs me one more time, says, dude, we've got to get out of this. And I was like, I don't know, give it some time. Yeah. We stop at the lights, yeah? And he actually stopped for once. As I said to you, he'd been storming through everything else. Dimitri and Ricky get out of the car. Right? They get out of the car on the motorway. Same motorway people have been shitting and sleeping all day.
Fuck.
Yeah? And they get out of the car. The guy doesn't even wait for him to close the door. Storms off and the door's just closed because he's moving. Right? And we're like, oh,
and you're still in the car.
Fuck. Yeah, just me and Arj and the 2 girls. And we're like, oh, fuck. And the guy now is just screaming at us. Yeah. Like properly verbal.
What is he saying?
No idea. He's going off in Hindi. I don't even know if Arj caught any of it.
Was he like a big guy?
Reasonably big. Not like Big Sid, but, he would have taken Dimitri, I reckon.
Okay.
Anyway, right. Yeah, look, to be honest, there was 4 of us. Yeah, if it was hand-on-hand combat, obviously there was only one winner. Yeah, but the issue is not hand-on-hand combat. The issue is we're in a car. Where is the car going? What's the safe way to evacuate? yeah. And I'm like, fuck, right, what do we do now? Because we've just left those two on a motorway, yeah. No real way to contact people. We're not in Delhi anymore, yeah. And I'm like, fuck. So Arj grabbed me and goes, this is serious. I was like, I know. So I actually climb out of the trunk into the middle part whilst the car's moving, yeah. And I'm shouting at the driver now, I'm involved, yeah. And the driver's like, fuck you guys, yeah. He says some things in English, which was nice because I was starting to lose track of what he was saying. Yeah, maybe he was just...
Appreciate it.
Maybe it was like Russian and they just sound angry, but they're actually just asking how you are.
If you're going to insult me, at least let me understand it. Like, come on.
But yes, he gave us a couple of fuck yous, yeah. So I grabbed him. Whilst he was driving the car, yeah, like 100 odd kilometers an hour. I fucking just grabbed the guy, yeah. And I was like, pull over the fucking car, yeah. And he slams on the brakes, right? We're on the motorway still. So everybody else is like skidding behind us, beeping behind us, having to go around us because we stopped. And he's going, oh, what the fuck you doing, yeah? And I'm like, let us go, yeah? We got to get the guys. And so he drives, yeah, and he tries to pull off on a side road, yeah? And so me and Arj both grab him now, yeah? And we're like, what the fuck you doing? And I was like, I'll pull this fucking handbrake if you don't stop and go, go back, yeah? I was like, I'll pull your fucking handbrake whilst he's driving. Anyway, as you can tell, this is a completely out of control argument. People are just shouting. It's a loud environment. It's not it's kind of killed everybody's vibes for the night out. Anyway, right, what we were thinking afterwards, okay, well, actually at this point, was he probably doesn't actually care about the guys, which is why he drove off when Ricky and Dimitri got out. Doesn't care about this. He probably doesn't care about me and Arj, but what he's annoyed about is that we're now causing problems because we're getting physical with him. Neither of us have attacked him, but we're making it clear that we're there. What he almost definitely wants is the two girls in the back. I've got no idea what he would have done to them, but after the last time we grabbed and threatened to pull the handbrake, he turned back onto the main road and did a U-turn onto the other lane of traffic, yeah? Even though it's the middle of the night, this is still busy, so that was yet another lunatic move from this guy who may or may not have been drink driving. Yeah, but we're now heading back into Delhi, and we're like, oh, thank God this is hopefully over, yeah. As I said, looking back, we weren't scared for like me, Arj, or the other two. What was the fear was the two girls, because, yeah, the last time two Danish girls had gone into those villages, they'd been hung. So, yeah, as we're driving along the road now, we go back for another few minutes, because we'd not been that long since, and we'd obviously already had one fight and already stopped the car once. We weren't that far away from where we'd left Dimitri and Ricky. And there they were, standing on the side of the road with a couple of police cars. Police cars had obviously gone past and seen, two white tourists on a motorway on the outskirts of Delhi at God knows what hour in the morning, yeah, and just gone, this is not right, yeah. So they'd stopped, yeah, right, they pulled the car over, they got everybody out of the car, yeah, the German girls were shook up, yeah. They got out the trunk. I never seen two, because obviously they must have known the story of the Danish girls. They'd heard all the fighting and stuff like that. They'd noticed that two of the guys had left, yeah. Like, if me and Arj had jumped out as well, they were gone. They were done for, yeah. Never seen two people so shaken up in their lives, You needed a hot chocolate and a hug from their mum, I think. And the police, police threw them into a tuk-tuk and said, no, let them go back. The police pulled over.
So the police stopped the car?
Police stopped the car. Yeah, and then they got us all out, yeah. They took the guy out and they were speaking with the guy and the girl. I don't know whether she actually had an interest in Ricky or was just trying to set her brother up with whoever he was working for or whatever he was doing. She may or may not have been in it, but basically they took those two to one side and, I don't know what the police would have done with them afterwards. We can speculate that they may have been arrested. I don't think they would have been. Because in theory, we hadn't let it get far enough that they'd done something wrong.
So you were taken against your will. So it was almost like a kidnapping.
Yeah, but this is how we viewed it. It was a kidnapping. I don't think they wanted to kidnap us. We were just, the extra casualties. Who they wanted to kidnap was the two in the back that we happened to be with. But so they'd attempted to take the six of us out into the villages. Unfortunately, this police on the way back after me and Arch had really tried to stand up for ourselves, had stopped the car and cleared everything up and got us in tuk-tuks going back to the centre of Delhi. Never saw the German girls again. Wouldn't surprise me if they just gave up and went home, because that's a horrible experience. Why would you want to continue after that? I don't know, maybe you would, but also you could forgive him for going home after that because it's pretty grim.
I literally could have picked any other episode. This guy's just too many. And best of all, we haven't even scratched the surface for all the story he has. This is a natural segue to Sid's favorite story of the season. Maybe because he was sitting right next to me when this happened. I've had a number of things happen to me traveling, good and bad. And this story is one I think about every single day. It is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. This experience has, I think, made me into the person I am today. So here is my experience with ayahuasca. So eventually all the lights go out. We sit down with the shaman and he starts to tell us about the experience, what's going to happen. He explains that it's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes for the tea to take action, and then we can expect to probably vomit, and then we're kind of off to the races for onto the experience. So you can just imagine Sid and I were sitting on these little cushions, sitting next to one another, with the shaman facing us, and our tour guide Frank in the background, just ready to translate if need be. And so we take the tea, and the tea itself was terrible. It tastes essentially like dirt. It's like a thick dirt going down your throat. It's fucking gross. And after you take it, or I guess before you take it and after you take it, the shaman continuously tells you, focus on why you want to be here. Prepare questions for like that to be answered. And so just focus on why you're here, why you're here, why you're here, why you're here. And as the experience starts to happen, the first thing I noticed that happened to me was I started to feel like sweaty, like I was sweating quite a bit. I was starting to feel, the feeling when you kind of are on the verge of vomiting, you kind of start to feel weak. Your hands kind of start feeling weird. Your extremities start feeling weird. And I can also remember the first weird thing to happen to me was that I could hear crickets, right? We're in the middle of the jungle. We're in this jungle hut and there's no sound, right? Every other person that's there is in bed or sleeping or whatever. And the only thing you can really hear is crickets. And the first thing that really made the experience weird, or I was just like, oh, it's starting, was that the cricket sound doubled and then it tripled and then it quadrupled. So it became no longer just a sound. It became a vibration. And I know people, if I was listening to this right now, I would probably be like, this guy's crazy. What the hell? But listen, look into it. There's a lot of other people that do this. I'm not the first person to do this. It's starting to be, I guess, discovered by Western people now. And it's an experience. So the humming started, and then all of a sudden, I just felt like someone had just put me in a spaceship and just pressed the gas to the pedal to the metal. And I was just going through space, just like, holy fuck. I can't control myself. Like, holy shit. And that probably went on for, time was kind of hard to say, but it went on for a little bit. And following that, I started to puke. And puking's not fun. Puking was I thought puking was going to be the worst part of this experience, I thought that the puking would make me not want to do the experience. But looking back, it's so minor. There's so many benefits that outweigh the negatives in terms of puking. Puking's nothing. And so after you're done puking, if I opened my eyes, I could see visions, like formations, just there was some stuff in my vision that was blocking my eyes. It's pretty weird. First time experiencing that. So it was pretty weird. But, and so eventually after I stopped puking,
I got to this place where I wasn't going 1,000 miles an hour and I was just there. And I was then able to communicate with something and it would answer my questions. So the format that it would give me, or I guess the format that I would see in my brain when I was closing my eyes, was that I would bring up a topic, or the thing would bring up a topic, and then it would give either green for good, and then a percentage of how good that was. And if it was bad, it would do red, and then would do a percentage. And so it started to do every single facet of my life. It was like a complete 360 in terms of friends, family, work, questions about myself, like spouse, just every single thing that you can imagine of your life. It was telling me if this was good, if it was bad. And yeah, it was completely insane. So just a bit of precursor. So the 2 nights before Sid and I decided to do ayahuasca, we were drinking. We were the only tour guide or tour group that brought drinks, but we were having some drinks with a few guys. And Sid asked me, he's like, Phil, when are you going to get married? And then I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't know why, like, I haven't done it before. Like, I've been with my partner for 5 years, and I was just like, yeah, like, what have I been waiting for? Like, you know, we've been together for so long, and I love her, and like, yeah, that's a good idea. And so one of the guys that we were drinking beer with was saying, oh, like, you said you were going to, you know, Humante Lake and Machu Picchu. He said both those places would be amazing places to propose. And so he's like, dude, like, definitely, like, he said, do Humante Lake where I proposed, because there's less people there, but it's so beautiful. That's like that'd be an amazing place to propose. And so back to the trip, my girlfriend Jacqueline comes up in my brain in the, I guess, the evaluation, and she comes up negative. She comes up like 54% negative. And that was really confusing to me, because like, I was like, I didn't even bring it up. Like, you're the one who kind of told me to look at, that you're the one who introduced Jacqueline. Like, I was like, you know, 2 nights before I decided that I was going to propose to her. I think if you're proposing to someone, you obviously know how you feel about that person. There's, you know, no doubts that you want to be with this person. And so all of a sudden, this thing that was telling me what's right and wrong in my life was saying Jacqueline is negative. And it also told me that I had to break up with her on this trip. And that's when I started having a bad trip, because I was planning to propose, and it was telling me to do the opposite. And then so eventually I got pissed off at this being, and I was like, well, screw you. Like, this ayahuasca is going to wear off eventually. And when it does, like, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want. You can't control me. And so the ayahuasca person retaliated by saying, well, if you don't do this, if you don't break up with her on this trip, you are going to get married and have a kid in the next 3 years, and she's going to divorce you. And it even showed me a picture of a guy that she was going to be with. And that's when I was starting to lose my shit. So my eyes were closed, sitting on this cushion, sitting next to Sid in the dark, and just bawling my eyes out. I was just so upset, because it was essentially going to ruin my life. I was just so distraught and was just like, fuck this, man. This is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And so it would, you know, try to continue and start to talk about new stuff. and it would bring up other topics, and I'd continuously always go back to Jacqueline. Jacqueline would always be negative, and I'd be like, what the fuck? And towards the end of it, I went to another topic. I went back to Jacqueline, and miraculously, Jacqueline was no longer red. Jacqueline was green, 99%. And then I was like, what the hell was this? And the being told me this was a test. This was a test to see how much you would fight for your future wife, and you passed. She's your soulmate. Congratulations. And it was one of the most intense things I've ever experienced in my life. I've never been more sure that I want to do this now, but it was just so intense and just so crazy. After that happened, obviously it felt really good, and yeah, it was fucked. So interestingly enough, having talked to other people that have done this experience, they had said that you talk to an entity, and then at the end it gives you like a list of things you need to prioritize, which it did for me too. So, and interestingly enough, on that list, Jacqueline was only number 2. Number 1, it told me that it told me not to freak out, but that I needed to focus on this thing, and it was cancer. And it said, you have cancer, it's minor, and you have to go get it checked when you get back to Canada. And so I was like, what the hell? And the shaman that was sitting between Sid and I, or facing, he was kind of like, we were like in a triangle, right? So he's kind of looking at me and Sid, and anyway, so he's playing, this whole time he's singing, and he's got this little plant thing that he's whacking on his hand that's just making like a noise. Apparently it's plant power or something. I don't know. And what he would do is when you were going through something difficult, he'd come and do like a solo session on you. And when that thing told me that I had cancer, or I had cancer in my body and I needed to fix it, he came right up to me and he put his hand on the back of my head. And the weird thing is that I do have a mole on on my head. It's just not in the back of my head. It's on the side of my head. And in hindsight, it had like been painful, maybe like a few months prior to this experience. And so when the shaman put his hand on the back of my head, I thought in my head, that's not the right spot, because I could feel the mole on the side of my head pulsating. And right when I said that in my head, never communicated to the guy, he moved his hand from the back of my head directly onto the mole on the side of my head, which is covered by hair in the middle of the dark, and no words were exchanged. Doesn't fucking make sense. I know it sounds weird. I was as weirded out as you were. And yeah, when he touched it, he was smoking this big cigarette thing. It's like natural tobacco, and he was just blowing smoke on it, and it just made it feel good. And yeah, so I guess I'm in the process of that. So I guess I'll keep you guys updated.
So yeah, listening back to that, it's still wild that I got a chance to do ayahuasca, and deciding to do ayahuasca, considering everything that happened to me before even getting to the jungle, like arriving in Peru day 1, I show up there, they don't have my bag. My bag only showed up 1 week after I got back to Canada. So I had no clothes, no nothing. So I had to really improvise getting into Peru day 1. And then day 2, I got robbed. My phone got stolen at knife point. So anyways, just to kind of cap that whole story off with ayahuasca, and then getting engaged at the end of that trip was just one of the craziest stories I've ever experienced. So wild shit. Now let's get to the final story. There were just so many other stories So many other great stories from this season. It was really hard to decide, but at the end of the day, I had to go with what were the most listened to and some what were some of my favorites. And this last one here was my favorite of the season. It's one that I heard about, or when I guess the person told me the story, I just kept thinking about it for weeks. It was one that I was just like, it blew me away. So fucking crazy.
So me and my friend Jasper, who I'm currently doing this tuk-tuk trip on, we enjoy spearfishing. Now, we did a lot of it in Indonesia. He's done a lot of it all over the world, to be honest. He's a very good spear fisherman. But he came to me one day and he's like, Josh, crazy plan. His country on the far easterly point of Indonesia called Timor-Leste. I think Timor-Leste means east in Bahasa and Portuguese. So it's east. It's very far east. It's been ravaged by war for a long time. I think it stopped in the 90s, but essentially had a big civil war. So the reef around it is, heralded as a lot of it's untouched. And you've got a lot of shoals of like dogtooth tuna there, apparently. Now, dogtooth tuna, if you're a spear fisherman, are pretty much at the top of the list in terms of fish that you want to get. I'd never shot one before that. And Jasper's like, look, dude, if you come with me to Timor-Leste, we'll get you on. And I was like, I'm in. So we flew to Timor-Leste. We found a car to rent for $100 a day. So it was expensive, but it was a 4x4. So we got these two girls from the hostel. We said, right, if you come with us, we'll go do the whole of the coast together. You pay $25 each. We pay $25 each. So it's basically like, and the only catch was, not catch, but like the bonus for them was we'll go spearfishing and we promise we'll catch you like food so that we don't actually, we'll save money on that as well. So it was like, that was part of the bargain. Like it seemed
very
like,
caveman of you.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, I'm probably gonna get cancelled. Realistically, that's literally what we said to them. We were like, here's the deal. We promise we'll catch fish. We're doing this drive, and we just couldn't spend $100 a day, man. So luckily those girls, they were adventurous. One was actually American, a girl called Katie, and Larissa, who was a Singapore girl. And both of them were legends. And they were like, yeah, boom, we're in. We love fish. We want to see the Timor-Leste coastline. Let's go drive it. So they hopped in the car, very trusting girls, and they were, good company. And we boosted. Got to the first campsite, had a whiskey, a couple of cigarettes, and a nice chat. And then the next morning, obviously, it was time to go and get some fish, like time to get breakfast. So we hopped in, and we went about 100 meters out to sea. So we swam over this like 2-meter depth of like rock and beach, and then we just hit this wall, man, that went down about 30 meters to 35 meters at points of just this wall of coral that just stretched down into the depths. And we were like, oh, there's fish at the bottom of you. And it was this crazy visibility, maybe 30 to 40 meter viz. So you're seeing just everything. You're just seeing these octopuses, crazy corals, reef sharks, fish swimming in and out, fish like you wouldn't believe, coral like you wouldn't believe, giant like corridors of coral where the rock is split. And we were like, this seems like a pretty good spot to drop off. So we would go down one after another. Jasper went down, I went down, Jasper went down. And while one's at the top, they're breathing up, the other one's going down hunting. Jasper went down, and while he was down, there's like fourth or fifth dive, he shoots a fish, and I'm at the surface, and I start hyperventilating, because I'm like, which is a stupid idea. It's how you die spearfishing. So I'm like, and I don't know why I was doing it, man. I don't know if it was excitement, if I was hungover. I kind of was conscious that I was doing it. I just didn't understand the danger, I guess. I was ignorant. And then Jasper came up with the fish, and he's like, there's another one in that hole, coral trout. Get down there, shoot it, and that's 2 fish will do 4 of us. So I get the gun, and I start dropping. And when you get to about 10 meters, you go negative buoyancy, so you just start falling like a skydive almost. It felt like I was skydiving down this wall of coral, just like, wow, is this cool? And then you hit the bottom around about 20, 21 meters, and then you just hold on to like a little rock, so you're like, steady. You've got the spear gun. I was just waiting for this fish. The fish was playing with me in and out of the cave, in and out of the cave. I was down there for about 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, I still feel good, but that's because I'd hyperventilated. So my body thought it had more oxygen than it did, because my CO2 level was down. It wasn't because I had more oxygen, but when you hyperventilate, your CO2 level in your blood drops, and the CO2 level rising is what tells your body to breathe. So my body had tricked it. I tricked it into thinking I had plenty of oxygen. Eventually, the fish sticks its head out a bit too far, and I shoot it straight to the spine. It's out, lights out, headshot. And then I start swimming back up to the surface. I give Jasper a little fist pump. Around this point, it's about 2 minutes 40 to 3 minutes that I've been down.
And you're holding your breath, or are you scuba diving?
Holding breath.
Holy shit!
Yeah, this is when I was better at it. My God, I've been smoking too many cigarettes. But so Jasper goes down, grabs the fish, and he looks up. And at this point, when I was about 10 meters away from the surface, my vision starts going like until it was like a little blue speck, and then boom, gone. So I had shallow water blackouted 10 meters below the surface with weights on, so I was sinking. So Jasper looks up at my body, and also another stupid thing I did, because if any spearfisherman was listening to this, they're going to like, this guy deserves to die. But I had my snorkel as well in my mouth. I was just hungover, man. I was making stupid decisions. My snorkel was in my mouth. Water was pouring in my snorkel straight into my lungs, and pulmonary foam was forming in my lungs and pouring out of my nose. So Jasper looked up, and I had these streams of pulmonary foam jetting out of my nose, and I'm sinking. I've been down already for about 3 minutes. So he drops everything, grabs me, swims me to the surface. He knows that at about 5 minutes, parts of your brain start to die. So you're either a vegetable or you're literally dead. So he's then like, he's got a race against time. 100 meters to shore, you've got your mate whose lungs are full of water, who's vibrating in the sea. I had a seizure, and then I went limp in his arms. And he was like, how am I going to get his body back to his parents, was his first thought. I'm in the poorest country, one of the poorest countries in the world, no development at all. And I've got this dead body in my arms, 100 meters out to sea. So he flips me around, starts on the chest compressions. He's not able in the sea to get enough pressure to actually make any dent in the lung foam. So I'm still a dead body in his arms. He flips me around and starts just blowing into my mouth as hard as he can. At this point, he's in his brain, he's like, right, 4 minutes 30. I've got about 30 seconds until this man is a vegetable. So he starts blowing into the lungs. The pulmonary foam, as he's doing this, he gets a cough, and I cough foam into his mouth. And because there's waves smashing over him, he refuses. He's kicking hard to keep both of us up with weight belts as well. He refuses to spit it out. So he swallows pulmonary foam out of my mouth and keeps blowing. And he pumps the pulmonary foam using his mouth into his own mouth and swallows it. He swallows all of the foam out of my lungs to the point where I cough again. And like it's cough, and I breathe like in, and he's like, yes. And then he brings me back to the shore. And like this whole time this has been going on, dude, I have been tripping balls. Like I have been zipping through dimensions and stuff. Like, don't know if you've ever tried DMT, but it's a lot like it. Like just zoom.
I have, yeah.
You have? Okay, boom.
Ayahuasca, yeah.
Okay, exactly. Okay, it was a DMT trip, man. I was just like colors, inexplicable. And then Jasper's like, he brings me back to the shore, and he says it's the most interesting thing he's ever seen. But like, I go from like this like comatose, dribbling dead guy, and then I just like spring to like my feet, looking dead in the eye. I was like, you're not gonna believe where I've just been or what I've just seen. And then she went boom, straight back into being a dead guy. And then that was a whole ordeal. That was a whole ordeal, and that's half the fucking thing, Dan. Because the main thing with drowning is secondary drowning, and that's what gets you, because your lungs are stuffed, full of water. So Jasper then has to get me to the nearest hospital, 2-hour drive away, slapping the shit out of me, dude, to keep me awake. Because if I go to sleep, I'm dead, secondary drowning. So he's driving in this thing hundreds of kilometers an hour along this like dirt road, slapping the crap out of me to keep me awake. Get me into the hospital, pull me into the hospital, get me on the oxygen, boom. As soon as the oxygen comes, my lungs are able to get a bit more in me, my brain comes back, and then I'm back in the room. And I'm like, right, okay, that's just happened. We need to get, like, what's the plan? Doctor comes in, he's like, right, I'm putting this tube down your penis. And I was like, so what do you mean you're putting a tube down my penis? He was like, this tube, we need to put a catheter in you. I was like, the water's in here. The water's in here. And he was like, sorry, bud. And he literally pulls down my shorts, grabs my wiener, which after dying And drowning is about this big in the cold sea. And he just starts
it's an innie.
Dude, it's an innie. And he starts feeding a pipe, I swear to God, this thick down my penis. Like, this is a Timorese doctor. Like, I think he was practicing on me. I think he just wanted to see what it looked like down there. And he's stuck. I'm screaming. And he eventually gets it about 8 inches down my wiener. And then he goes, right, you're ready to you're getting medevaced on a plane. So I get put on the plane, holding my bag of piss after drowning in Timor-Leste. Like, this is a shit day. And then they fly, they fly me to Dili, the capital city, where they have ventilators. If my lungs fail, they can keep me going. And they wheel me into the hospital and I'm holding this bag of pee. There's a waiting room of 300 people, crying, sad, really like quite a sad scene. And then it's just this one white guy holding his bag of urine, naked, with his willy out. Like, what is going on? And then the doctor comes up to me and he's like, and I'm like, can you please take this out of my willy? And he goes, why have you got a catheter in? And I was like, the doctor said I needed it. He went, no, dude, you don't need a catheter at all. I was like, this sucks. He pulls a curtain around me. These 7 Timorese nurses come in, maybe about 4'5" to 5 foot, about 150 centimeters, very short, very lovely. One of them holds my hand, another holds my hand, another was patting my forehead, another was holding a bucket. I'm like, what's the bucket for? And then the doctor comes over, grabs this tube in my willy and just pulls it out like Excalibur. And I just scream the C word so loudly. There's blood pouring out of my man bits into this bucket, which this nurse has got, being like, yeah, I know I got the bucket. And then they pull I scream the word, I'm going to say it, maybe beep it, cunt. And they scream as loud as I possibly could. And then they pull the curtain back around me. And there's just a silent room of 300 people looking at this naked British guy with blood just all over him down here. And it was just a wild day, dude. It's a wild day. But anyway, to finish it up quickly, a week later, I got out of hospital, went back spearfishing again, and I shot a dogtooth tuna. So, yeah, we got there in the end, baby.
Fuck, dude. That was intense.
Yeah, man. That was a wild week.
Wow. Josh Porter brings the house down with his story. Another all-around great episode where he talks about tuk-tuking across Africa for the past 2 years and crazy stories along the way. Full episode is a recent one, number 56, What Happens When You Die, featuring Josh Porter. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is season 2 for you. I'm going to be taking a break for a few months. I've been posting episodes for weekly for a year now. It's been a grind. It's been a grind, but I've, kind of looking back, I'm working really hard to put the episodes through, and to get the interviews, to find the cool guests and stuff like that. And sometimes it just takes a toll and you just got to take a break. And, you hear about all these crazy stories and sometimes, you got to take a bit of time and go live a couple yourself. So I think that's what I'll be doing. I'm still training for my marathon, which is happening October 15th. And I think that Medi is as up to date. It looks like he will be joining me. So we might be doing some live content with him in October. So that's going to be fun. And listen, looking forward to seeing you in season 3. Like I said, probably a couple months, maybe the summer. We'll see. And looking forward to see you then. Anyways, take care.
Thank you for listening to Two Beers Till Takeoff. Do you want free additional content or just to stay connected with the show? Then give us a follow on our social media platform. That means TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of them. Are you in need of podcast production services, video editing, or anything in between? Then look no further than Strut Sound Productions, the official producer of the Two Beers Till Takeoff podcast. Music produced by Alex Gagne. Check out his work in our show notes. Voiceover done by Viking Leo K. See you next week on Two Beers Till Takeoff.